In this tutorial, we will be covering the tasks that are associated with creating new content. There are a number of things that we'll break out in separate tutorials later, so think of this as an introductory overview with a few simple tasks to show you the connection between adding content to your site and getting it onto a page, as well as understanding where it goes. When we're looking at adding content, we many times will start with the new content panel. So let's look at that. It has recently been divided, so this might be new to some of you who are watching the tutorial, in that we have looked at what typical objects would someone place into content if they were working on their portfolio from a personal perspective, as compared to looking at it from an education perspective, where they might focus more on courses or credentials, or from a professional work perspective, where they're looking more at affiliations and references, contacts, employment experiences, and skills. Now, most of our users are interested in adding web content, and there are some very general web content types in HTML and URL tasks, but you can also include specific Google Doc references based on the kinds of sharing or editing permissions you've allowed, and direct embed code to display a YouTube video, either yours or someone else's, within your eFolio pages. We have the space for uploading files and images and other third-party utilities or objects, and then a general area that is often used for adding a specific caption or title that doesn't seem to fit any of the other spaces. So when you first come to this screen, it will show you the layout that you currently see with the personal focus expanded and the various object types included. One more thing you'll notice. If I click on personal and then I click on education, you'll notice that there's an activity object type in education and in personal. Those are one and the same. It does not matter where you select them from or what your beginning point is. It's simply a place for you to build out your content. So we'll open up the activity object, and the pop-out action icons allow us to either set this as our own personal to-do item or to go ahead and create it, which is the step we'll do at this time. We'll actually create it. In any of the objects, when we click Create, it opens up a form into the center workspace area with required fields indicated in bold text and other fields that provide options and guidance as to how we might actually build out this object and what kinds of content we might consider placing in it. The content accordion is automatically open when we come into this activity. If we click on the twisty, the small triangle, it will collapse that, and we can see that the activity form has multiple parts to it. So not only could we add basics about content, but we could also be adding related content by dragging something into this link builder field that we've already created. Or we could be adding reflections, which by their very nature are kept private unless we choose to make them public. And then should we have feedback that we have requested about a particular item, we can control the feedback through this area as well. Remember, I said that this tutorial will be very basic and we'll be adding more details later. So we're going to focus primarily on the content accordion in our work right now. Let's say that our activity title is summer employment. So we'll type in the title for it, and then we can add information in the other fields such as the activity type or the start and end dates. using the calendar picker. Let's say that I started this on June 15th. I can indicate what the activity status is. Maybe I'm still involved in it, so I'm going to put in progress. And then I can type information into the brief text narrative area or into the full text narrative area. The difference between these two is that brief text will by default appear in the sidebar when the object is placed there in our page layout, although it can be exposed if it's in the center of the page. And full text by default will appear if this object is used in the center or the body of the page in our site layout. So if I want to add some content into the full text area, I can type it directly into this text field. I can paste it from another source, or I can paste it from a Word file. If I'm talented in the area of HTML scripting, I may choose to go into the HTML field and work with that. I'll type some starting information in this area. We can expand it later on. So in the scenario that we're tracking through, our person completing content has decided to volunteer in the state parks program for experience related to an interest in preserving the environment. Browser spell checkers warn you when something is spelled incorrectly. You can mark up the text with common text editing, so I can make this a larger font. I can go in and add information. And let's say that there was a link to the state parks program that I wanted to provide. I'll paste the link into this area. I'll set this to open in a new window, and I'll go ahead and insert that. So you see a few of the things that I can do within the content area. You'll explore and find many uses for all of these. I'm going to go ahead and save this, but before I do, I want to point out to you that we can also tag content within the tool, and tagging allows us to find it at a later point. Maybe I want to take a moment to provide the tag called volunteer work. I'll add that. It becomes a part of my library of tags. It tags this content, and I can go ahead and OK that. We do have more information about tagging in our related guides and resources, so you can check into that in more depth if that's of interest to you. We'll go ahead and save this. And some of you might be saying, well, where did it go? I can't find it. Content, once it's been developed, does not automatically appear on a page, because within the eFolio tool, content can actually be placed in multiple places with unique property settings. Your content has actually been saved into the panel called My Content, and it carries with it both the category of object type, in this case activity, and the title that you gave it. So that's where the content has been saved at this time. Now, when you're working with content, sometimes you want to go back in and edit it. You can always click on the item and you get a whole different set of action icons. I can totally delete it. I can edit it. I can add a tag after the fact. I can make it a further to-do item. If I go in to edit the item, I'm presented with the content that I had added earlier, and I can go ahead and make changes to that. Or, remember we talked about these different accordions. If there was something I wanted to pull into the related content, I could do that. Now I'll show you how it's done, but I'm not going to leave it there because in this case I have limited items in my content listing, but I could pull an item in from the content and it could be part of my related content for that item. We'll delete it at this time, and because I really didn't do anything with this, I'm just going to cancel it. Well, we may as well look at what happens if you accidentally delete something. Let's say that I would have selected the trash icon for my welcome and it's gone. I can go into the trash panel, click on it, and restore it, and it would be back in content. I may need to refresh my screen, but there it is. So until you purge something from trash, it will still be there for you. Now, if I would have brought this onto a page, so the welcome item is sitting on my home page, and then I would have deleted it from the My Content area, it would disappear from the page as well. If I restore it from trash and refresh my screen, back in content, there it is, but it doesn't automatically restore it to the page where I placed it. If I place something on a page, but I delete it from the page, notice the red ball with the white minus sign in it and the tooltip that says I'm deleting page content with that tool. If I click on delete, it will remove it from the page but leaves it in the My Content area. Well, we've discovered how to add new content using the New Content panel. We've looked at the to-do items. We've also looked at where the content is saved once we create it and how we can go in and edit it, or how we might manage it by deleting it, and even tasks that we can do such as tagging or making it into another to-do. As you explore more ways of creating new content, please feel free to refer to our tutorials on uploading files, uploading images, creating HTML content, and doing other tasks related to managing the content in your eFolio site.